Welcome into the Backroads Bill podcast. I'm Ben, and it is Kindness Week 2025. It's running from now, if you're listening to this on the day of release, it is Wednesday until Friday, the 13th. Though, if you listened to North Bay with Love yesterday, our guest, Graham, had a very wise and interesting thing to say. And again, he's 10 years old, and Graham says, you know, it shouldn't be Kindness Week, and it should be Kindness Infinity. Again, wise words from a 10-year-old, just saying, hey, you don't need a week to be kind, right? You just want to be kind all the time. So that's a theme across all of our Echo shows this week. So today, what we have for the Backroads Bill podcast, being a very environmentally heavy themed podcast, we brought in Trees from Nipissing, which is a group here in the North Bay area that is all about the preservation and planting and growth of trees here in the area. We brought in Peggy and Cindy, who are both on the board and do tremendous work, as well as a number of volunteers in our community. And we talk about the volunteering and the community aspect of it. But the amount of work that these two and the rest of the team does is absolutely fantastic. And we also get into a little bit of we don't get too political on this podcast, but we got into a little bit about the tree bylaws here in the city, which don't exist. And we talk about kind of what the tree bylaw would cover, why it's important, and also why there would be some people who might not want it. And so all of that is going to be covered. It's a fantastic episode. And again, it's all about being kind. So before we get to that, though, we do need to thank today's lead sponsor, Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay.
Hey North Bay, it's time to celebrate. The city is turning 100 and Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay invites you to the party. Be at home in our spacious suites, each featuring a kitchen. Yeah, a real kitchen. Also, enjoy our comfy living spaces and brand new fitness gear so you can keep feeling great while staying on budget. Planning a big bash or business event? We've got the perfect meeting spaces right here on site. Plus, with our partnerships at The Grand and Stock Transportation, your guests and delegates are in great hands. Want to know the best part? We're right beside the beautiful Cape Paceway, steps to North Bay's lively waterfront, and moments from downtown's shopping, dining, and entertainment. Celebrate the Centennial with us all year long with an exclusive discount. Just use the code CENTENNIAL when booking your stay. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or call us at 705-495-3000.
So this week it is Kindness Week, and across all our shows here on the Echo Network, of course, we have interesting guests that are all connected to kindness. And I wanted to reach out. This was one that I wanted to make sure we got for the show because as me and Bill were talking about what we could do, the first thing that popped up was the organization Trees for Nipissing, and we brought in two people from the board, the chair, Peggy, Walsh, Craig, and Cindy Lalande. Cindy and Peggy, welcome to the Backroads Bill podcast.
And Ben, you know what? I've always been kind to you, but this is a really important week because trees are us and trees are all around us. And there's so many benefits with regards to being with the trees. And of course, this is our centennial year here in North Bay. And so I think these two guests kind of epitomize where maybe we should go with regards to some environmental due diligence.
Yeah, maybe we should start off. We were just talking quickly off camera about as we were talking about Kindness Week, what you the amount that you do with the community, the people who come out. So maybe just start off with kind of what you guys do and how that ties into the impact in the community.
Great. We Trees for Nipissing, and we were formerly known as Nipissing Botanical Gardens. We evolved from the Heritage Gardeners, and starting about 2004. And we've been involved with most of the community tree planting that you've seen around town, including a big project for us in the beginning was the planting of the trees in the parking lot by the museum between Marina Point and the museum. And you'll see now that that's mostly bur oaks, and they are starting to provide some shade for your car when you park there. So that was due to a huge volunteer effort that we were able to do that. Some of the more recent projects we've been doing since 2022, we've been planting large numbers of trees at the former Marsh Drive landfill site. So the last 2 years, we've done 400 trees with TD employees, and that is funded by TD Tree Days. The organizers of that grant program in Toronto each year say, "Are you sure you can do that many trees with so few volunteers?" And I assure them that we can without stressing out the volunteers very much. So it's a
They
really...
don't seem stressed. They're always smiling and happy, and everybody has a great time.
Well, Cindy, I'm going to ask you then, like, why do trees matter? Let's not go too far ahead of
Okay.
ourselves, because I want to know about the trees. I think we do know, but in our community, people take it for granted that there's trees here, there, and everywhere, but not so, and we'll discover that.
Well, they're vital for our planet, first of all. They absorb carbon, which we produce, and they absorb it for free. It's not this carbon capture thing we're trying to figure out, shipping carbon somewhere and putting it in the earth. We don't even know if it's going to stay there. Trees do this for free. They make our lives much more beautiful. I mean, this time of year, you go out, the lilacs, the flowering apple trees, everything smells so good. It's so beautiful. It's good for our health. They prevent erosion. They clean our water. I mean, trees do so many things. They're magical. They're like, they create all these little miracles all the time for us with the food they produce, the nuts, the sap, the biodiversity. They're incredible.
So one of the questions I have down here, and I've noticed it myself, but I've been told this, that why are some of the mature trees, a lot of the mature trees in North Bay have gone missing or have been cut down? Why is that?
Well, North Bay has no bylaw to protect trees. That's the short answer. We've been working on that for over 20 years with the city, and more recently we were optimistic that such a bylaw would come to North Bay. However, in recent months, we've been told that there are no city staff working on that currently. So to go there, we're going to need to speak up for the trees. And that means creating more political will.
So Bill, but with that, with the trees and stuff, what's the importance outside of obviously like planting them and the oxygen and the more what we need? What is the importance for protecting the trees that we have, and why is this a bylaw that is an important bylaw that a lot of places have?
Yes, the majority of municipalities in Ontario have such a bylaw, including small places like Powassan, of course, Toronto. But also other cities the size of North Bay also have such. And it's important because people become attached to trees. So if your neighbor has a beautiful tree and then one day decides they don't like it and they cut it down, most people get kind of upset about that.
Yeah, well, we know trees are cut down for safety reasons by North Bay Hydro and Works Department. But what about the private landowner? What are we missing here? Maybe, Cindy, maybe you can start us off with this one.
Well, people feel that it's my property. I should be able to do what I want with it. But the trees benefit the whole community. So one tree in your neighborhood, it could provide shade for 4 or 5 houses. So it's, protecting you in the winter from the strong winds. It's cooling your house in the summertime. It's providing places for animals and birds, so we have more nature in our community, and people, like Peggy said, get attached to the trees, and it's something really important that we need to protect because they do provide us with so many things.
Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, and too, it's great for tourism as well, and for people seeking to relocate. If potential new residents of North Bay come and see that it looks kind of barren, like some of our residential neighborhoods do look kind of barren. So having tree-lined streets that always increases real estate values.
Yeah, well, I just came along the waterfront. Today is, I think, the Armed Forces Day. But Lee Park is a mature park, and the beautiful trees there. Now, do you think, and I know there's been a lot of work on their waterfront, but that's what we want to see in the future, especially for our waterfront, never mind all the other areas, because we have a lot of urban parks throughout the city. But when you go to the waterfront now, you down there, I always say, where are the trees? And especially on the backside towards the railway tracks too. And I know that, and I'm, correct me, please do, but we need more trees even there, I think.
And we have worked on Memorial Drive quite a while. One of our first projects, maybe around 2007, on the lake side of the slope right by the railway, but the slope behind where the All Wheels Park is now. We planted silver maples that we had started off in the nursery, and a big gang came and planted all along there, and those trees now are 30 or 40 feet high. So that is in the area you're talking about. And another thing, we're in a transition along Memorial Drive because initially when that waterfront was renovated, built in the late 1980s, they planted a lot of ash trees, and the ash are really affected by emerald ash borer. Parks is expecting those ash trees to die soon, and so trees have been planted, but they're not as big as the...
And that was around City Hall, too. A lot of the ash trees there died, so that looks a little barren now. Yeah,
and before we get a little more into the bylaw, Cindy, describe the kind of person that comes out to plant trees. You've mentioned many projects, and you go on. I really recommend the listeners and viewers to go to the Trees for Nipissing website. And also you have the politicians out there too. I noticed Anthony Rota, who's just recently retired, but you'll get Pauline Rochefort out. She'll be a real good tree planter to be sure. So yeah, but tell us about the kind of people that want to come out and plant trees. I mean, it's okay for the organization and you set it up and organize, but then you have to ask for volunteers.
Exactly. But you know what? It's been wonderful. We have 2 years in a row. The Ferris Lions have sponsored a scout planting. So the traditional scouts have come out. And 1 year we planted at Champlain Park. And this year it was at Omichelle along the river. And we planted 200 trees in each spot.
125.
125 in each spot. So the scouts are there. The Lions are there. We're there. Then when we do up at the landfill, we get all kinds of people up there. We get people new to North Bay. We get students from foreign students from Canadore College. We get babies in mom's backpacks. We get older people, and you just everybody's having so much fun. Well, except that one little kid. He just wanted to go home and go back and play his games. But everybody else was smiling,
and we get parents and children saying, parents saying to their kids, yes, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, we're going to come back and you're going to remember this day because it's a special time that they had together. It's a unique thing. So we've had a lot of help from Harriet Madigan's groups, including Living Fit for 3 years. We ran a project called Grandchildren Planting Trees. And we've had tremendous support from Alliance Case, who have sponsored, they call it the newborn forests. So they want to plant trees for all the newborns at our hospital.
Oh, that's neat.
So
is that in and around the hospital, or
no?
We did Chippewa School last year.
Yeah, lots of places we've planted with them, including Northern Pines.
Oh yeah,
We did that the year before last, and we planted at the Mother House.
Right.
So it really. In North Bay, it's not very hard to get volunteers to plant trees.
Yeah, so the volunteer part isn't a big deal. What about the upkeep? Because you can't just stick it in the. I'm assuming you can't just put it in the ground and that's it.
Speak to
So you get people that come out and plant it, but how many people are actually going back there on a? What's the upkeep like? I'm really curious about that.
the upkeep is a challenge. I'll give you an example. Chippewa School, we planted the trees there, but now one of the teachers, there's 3 of them, but Mike Brisson's my major contact. He has a class that's going out and they're mulching the trees and they're watering the trees, which is great. But in the summertime,
there's no one there.
There's no one there to do it. So, I'm in contact with this custodian there, and hopefully he will let us in so that we can water the trees or maybe do a pruning if they need it because they're new. But going back and trying to get water for the trees is an issue.
And how much time do you have to do that before they kind of are like adults? They can be on their own. You don't have to worry about them anymore.
They're settled.
Because they take a long time. Don't they take like 50 plus years or something to grow to maturity?
It depends on the species, but the first 2 years are crucial, and the first week is crucial. But another aspect of it that we haven't mentioned so far is that we have 2 nurseries. So on 2nd Ave near Chippewa Creek, we have what we call the starter nursery, where we're growing baby trees, if you will. And those have to be weeded every month through the summer, and that's what Cindy is looking after. It's kind of a tedious job, but it's so worthwhile because they'll last longer. And then we have another nursery where we have the bigger trees on Hammond Street, and we get assistance in both of those from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, who helps maintain those 2 locations in terms of mowing and weed removal at the ground level.
So you've got volunteers, you've got sponsors, you've got the will. And the planting trees is our legacy projects, and this is our centennial year in North Bay, and we don't have a trees bylaw. And let's talk a bit about that, because that could be a legacy for our community coming not only this year but for the future.
Yes, it would be a very good project for this year to get something in place. I know we have a lot of people coming to North Bay to live here, and they're always surprised that we don't have such a bylaw. And there's a lot of people, too, who find out that we don't have a bylaw through we'd call it a tragic incident where a big tree gets cut down. So we would encourage people to contact any one of the counselors or all of the counselors to tell them how they feel about having a bylaw, a tree protection bylaw. Yes, we could anticipate making a presentation to council sometime in the future. And we need to create some buzz around this.
Is there any anything that, not backlash, but is there a reason why people wouldn't want to have a tree bylaw outside? I guess maybe personal, like trees on their personal property, or.
Well, as Cindy mentioned already about people, they don't want to go through the hassle of getting a permit to cut down a tree of a certain size. We're not talking about tiny trees here. We're talking about bigger trees. There's most of the municipal bylaws that have been passed cite a certain diameter
size,
tree at a certain height. And so there are people that feel that they should be entitled to do whatever they want on their properties. But just like we have bylaws for
mowing your lawn, cutting your grass,
building
and
a
your
shed.
sewage.
You need a permit to build it.
Exactly.
Rural properties that have sewage requirements.
Or dead cars in the driveway.
So
you don't have a lot of control over your own home. That's something you learn very early on.
That's the case. So I can sympathize that to some degree as a property owner myself, but on the other hand, I think the trend in society, just like CMHA would say, is it's all about the community.
And is there any, obviously there's no bylaw or protection, but for public trees and public areas, is there a little bit, would someone like a hydro or somebody government-wise come down and be like, oh, I'll cut any tree down? Or is there a little bit more protection when it comes to like public areas? And
The municipality takes pretty good care of their trees, don't you think?
But they can cut down
Whatever
any
they
tree.
want.
But the Parks Department is usually somewhat sensitive, and they usually put out a communique before they cut down any trees that they think the public would object to. And North Bay Hydro has a program that in the places where they do cut trees down, homeowners can apply to have a replacement tree planted. That's been going on for quite a while now.
And Trees for Nipissing, we do Grow Your Canopy, where once a year we provide trees about this size.
Just like this. This is
Yeah.
one of the trees that we...
For $20, which is a very good price. And you just have to go online and apply for one, and then you can come down and get them.
We
from
only
us.
do that once a year. Unfortunately, we don't have, but the city does help subsidize that program.
well, it is almost officially, by the calendar definition, summer. Very soon. I think it's June 20th. We're sitting here. It's June 11th. So very, very shortly, basically next week or the week after, it will be officially summer. And it's been beautiful weather, even though it looked like it was going to rain earlier today. It's been absolutely beautiful weather here where we are in the North Bay area. And, you know, we talk a lot about adventures on this podcast. And I kind of went on a bit of an adventure this year, a little bit. Not a Backroads Bill adventure, but a Ben adventure. And what I did was I joined a softball team. And that might not seem like an adventure to a lot of people. That's just a sport. But it was. When you haven't played organized sports for a number of years, of course, COVID kind of put things in a little bit of a tizzy, I guess. I don't know if that's even a word. Is that like an old person word? Anyways, it kind of messed things up, right? And the next thing you know, it's been 10 years since you played organized sports, and your body just doesn't work the same way. I think a lot of people can probably understand where I'm coming from here. It's your body starts to break down a little bit, and it gets a little bit harder. But more importantly than the body part of it is the equipment, right? So I needed to get new gloves, cleats, pants, all this stuff. And I went over to Source for Sports last month, and the team there was absolutely fantastic. First of all, I went in through the employee door by accident. I did talk to Paul McLean, who's the owner there, and I said, you got to mark that better, because it was, I had no idea. I just walked in, I was behind the counter, but it was all good. And I know they have some great plans for what they want to do to that store, but honestly, the store is absolutely fantastic. I went to, I was helped by Haas, who was amazing. He got me a great deal on some cleats that were clearance. I didn't really care. I don't need the best thing. I just needed cleats. And he did a great job saving me some money. I was in and out in like 15 minutes, but I also got the service that I needed. He was able to go through all these different kind of gloves, what works best, what would be good, what's worth the investment, what's not worth the investment. And as somebody who used to do sales, he did an absolutely fantastic job. And all of their team, every time I go in there, their team is absolutely fantastic. So if you're looking for sports equipment, not sports, just sports equipment. I guess if you're looking for sports, but sports equipment, and you don't know what you're doing, or if you just want to be able to get everything and have a one-stop shop, they have almost everything you need there, from apparel to equipment to all of that stuff. And again, absolutely fantastic service. People really care, which is a big thing in a customer service area. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's so easy to go to a big box store or to Amazon or all these places, but sometimes shopping locally can be fantastic. And it was... even though that they are a sponsor on this podcast, they don't even need to pay me. I would still sing their praises. They were absolutely fantastic. But they did sponsor this podcast, and they do sponsor the Echo Network. So thank you to Paul and his team. And go visit them down at 1321 Fisher Street for any of your sports needs.
Dear North Bay, as a single mom and full-time student, life can feel overwhelming and budgets are always tight. But one thing I never question is how deeply I care about my community. When I began volunteering at the North Bay Regional Health Centre, I saw firsthand how much the healthcare system means to people, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. It made me think, what if it was my child, my parent, or my friend that was in need of care? That's when I realized I wanted to do more, to be part of something bigger than myself. I joined the I Give monthly club because even a small monthly gift can have a meaningful impact, helping ensure everyone in our community has access to the care they need right here at home. If you believe in strong, local health care, I hope you'll join me. Sign up at nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125. It's simple and it matters. With gratitude, Kim Cosgrove.
It's Trees for Nipissing. So what's your range? It's not just North Bay. I'm assuming it's a little bit further.
Honestly, it is mostly North Bay, but we have had discussions with a community group in Powassan, and if there's a group that has the volunteers, we would help facilitate that.
That's awesome. And you guys aren't hurting for volunteers right now, which is nice, right?
We could use
you could always use more.
We could always use more.
There's two areas. So one is weeding in the starter nursery, and the other one is we have to harvest those trees from time to time. And so we always need help to dig up the trees that are provided to community plantings.
But it is nice that there is a community involvement in that, right? Like I know a lot of people who will go out to like BC to plant trees, but they go out there, it's a job, right?
Right.
They go out there and they get paid. This is where they're doing it. Speaking of Kindness Week, they're kind of doing it in the kindness of themselves. So I'm sure, like we've already had a couple of stories, but one of the things, again, we talked about was, we're seeing people from all walks of life coming out and being involved. Do you guys have a really, really neat story, like volunteer story or just something that kind of pops out? Because I'm assuming you've been doing this for many years and this isn't your first rodeo.
No.
Well, you probably have another one, but I'll also mention we were harvesting trees in the starter nursery, and that's a job that's much harder than it looks. And we were all getting very tired out from doing this heavy lifting. And without any prior warning, crew from Arbor Works, arborists, they showed up and it was such a relief
for us. Yeah.
And maybe you have another one.
Oh, I was just thinking of that mom at Trees, TD Trees, when we were doing the Marsh Drive planting, and she had her two little kids and then the one in the back, and her children have been coming for years to plant there. And they were having so much fun and they worked so hard. And then the one little guy, he got up into the trailer with Hal from Eagle Tree Service with the mulch, and he was just filling those little buckets. Those buckets. He was just such a hard worker, and he was having such a great time, and that kid is going to remember that for years to come. And the next time he comes out to Marsh Drive this year, maybe he'll come and he'll see what he did. And even my nephew was there, and he had to try every shovel that was at the dig site just to see which one was perfect. So all these little things, and he's always saying, "Are we going to do it again this year, Aunt Cindy? Are we going to do it again?" So it makes special memories, makes people happy.
Yeah. So for the trees bylaw, and it's no one's fault over history, but if there is a bylaw especially for developers, we'll say, and other private landowners, we cut a lot of our trees down now because they're right beside the sidewalk or the road. Whereas in the future, if you plant your tree with a setback, come 50 or 100 years from now, the tree will not be encroaching on the power lines, which hopefully more and more will go underground. But nonetheless, it's all about, people need to be directed a little bit about how to plant a tree and where to plant it. I mean, one thing I've learned just from our conversation, that we shouldn't plant our trees right next to the sidewalk. We need to set them back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that is why on our Grow Our Canopy program, because in that program, the homeowner decides where to plant and also has a choice, usually one of 5 different species of tree. And we always include a couple small ones because there's lots of small yards. And it just could be a lot better in the long run to plant a smaller tree that still will have many of the same benefits.
Better survival rates.
And we hand out information about that whenever we
And when they apply, you kind of ask them about their properties to make sure that the right tree is being planted. You know, you don't want to put something who likes a swampy area in a really dry space.
Site conditions.
Yeah. But about the bylaw, you know, it's amazing when you go to different cities and it's a leafy, green, beautiful city with lots of trees. I mean, it promotes people to active transport. It promotes you to, you ride your bike, you walk because you want to see things. And it's good for the local businesses because it attracts people to those areas where the trees are. So if we want to get more people in our downtown, you know, you put up more trees and it's attractive. It makes people happy. They want to go down there. So not only is it good for our local businesses, but it's good for our health because we're using active transit.
I was actually going to bring that up because there are there are quite a few places in their downtown area where there is, you know, they have trees planted like every so often. I think even like Toronto has them in some of the big,
I was going to ask
cities.
about some good examples that come to mind in small towns or small cities that you know of that have done a good job at this.
Guelph.
Guelph, okay.
London is very leafy. And Hamilton. Hamilton has an excellent street tree program. I worked for many years in the wholesale nursery business in Southern Ontario, and the job was to send tractor-trailer loads full of mature trees to Parks Department all across Southern Ontario. Montreal is great.
Trees for Nipissing is not an activist group. You're an advocacy group. What are some of your next steps to get this bylaw in motion as best we can, and knowing that there's an election about a year and a half from now?
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow for Nipissing Environmental Watch.
That's a different organization.
Different organization, but they are also working. We are also members of those, and we're working together with Trees for Nipissing and Nipissing Environmental Watch to try to get more momentum on this.
Yeah, it's more Nipissing Environment Watch is the advocacy group, whereas Trees for Nipissing is all about increasing the canopy of North Bay, the tree canopy. But the next steps would be to get people talking about it. So also recognizing who, like we need some of the community influencers, and you know who you are, to bring this up and talk about it in your service groups, in your religious organizations. It's a popular thing to do, to plant trees and also to protect them.
I think it is. You know, it's not easy to create a bylaw, but it's easy to plant trees, so to speak. And it is an act of kindness. And then again, even on the Backroads Bill podcast, we've got a kind of a local focus today, this time around, Ben. But it's good because we hope there's some councillors and the mayor listening and others in the community that want to, it's a torch that we all hold.
Mm-hmm. And
That's right.
and they do. Trees do so many things for us for free, and it doesn't. You know, we have to pay for the tree once, care for it a little bit, and then it will work for us for 50 years without much money going into it. It's amazing what they do. And it's not just providing shade and biodiversity and, you know, sucking up all the extra rain, helping with flood mitigation. It cleans our air. And right now, what do we have? 150 forest fires burning in Canada.
More.
All those trees, that carbon is being lost because they're being burned. It's creating more problems in the atmosphere, and we need to plant more trees to change that, to help control the mess that we've made.
Well, it was interesting this week, during the time of the Dalton McGuinty government, they set a pledge to plant, I'm going to get the number wrong, but 2025 was the deadline, and they're going to meet that target this year provincially. Now, that's mostly in Crown land, but I mean, as a nation of kind, compassionate people, we as Canadians, this is something we can easily do because we are a tree country in essence. And so there's no reason why in our municipalities that we don't continue to take the lead of organizations that we have, even today here on the Backroads Bill podcast, to look at a municipal bylaw for our own city, and again during our centennial year.
Yeah, and maybe people take it for granted a little bit because there are so many forests and densely tree populated areas in and around where we are. When we talk about like downtown, it makes sense if you go to Hamilton or London or wherever where there's not really any trees and you go, oh, there's a tree, you know? So maybe people take it for granted a little bit. I do have a really very specific question. I have no idea if you can answer this, but I'm actually really curious if there is any sort of quota for how many trees need to be in a municipality. Because like you know how like we talk about oxygen.
What
and
a
stuff.
question that is, Ben.
I'm just curious because if anybody knows, it would be you guys.
Yeah.
There are stats on how much a tree of a certain size benefits the air quality. There are stats on how much a mature tree beside your house can save on your air conditioning bill. There are, I don't have those figures at my fingertips, but yeah, there are stats like that. But no, there's no, I don't think there's even a guideline on how much. Unfortunately, these decisions are driven by, okay, Parks Department, your budget this year is X number of dollars for planting trees like on public land. You know, instead we need to turn it around a little bit and look at, for instance, a neighborhood like the one between Algonquin Street and O'Brien Street on the far side of the bypass. And if you go through that neighborhood, the thing that stands out are the houses, not the trees. There's so few trees, people who live there. It is a walkable neighborhood, but you've got a couple of blocks to walk out in the hot sun. And I'm sure other people can think of some other neighborhoods where it's just so bare. Like, and why do we have new parking lots being built with no trees?
That's a fair point.
Like who?
I never even thought about
you
that.
go in the parking lot, everybody's parked where the trees are because they want the shade in the car.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's many, many ways we could.
Well, now
improve
I'm
this.
thinking of like Omichelle, right? Like giant sports complex that's just barren, and you're like, that would be like a good place to have.
What's the tree plan?
Or even around the picnic tables there where people sit between the parks or the fields. There's no trees there. Well, you're not going to sit in that picnic table and fry in the heat of the day when you're.
And we did plant there, but where we planted, we just planted there in May, but we planted in the far back corner, right along the Lavaz River, because there's a lot of ash trees in there that are going to be dying, and this is more of an erosion control kind of a tree planting project, but. Planting for personal human comfort and for animal habitat isn't broadly considered across our city, and that can change.
I don't know if you remember. Well, you'll remember this, but I don't know if you were involved in the trees. But way back, like 20 years ago, it really dates me. 20 years ago, when we had the windstorm, the famous, that like infamous. It was the closest we've ever had to a tornado, and there was just like trees everywhere. I remember at my cottage, like the entire, like it went from you. In the middle of day, if you go down our laneway, you had to use your lights on your car, right? Because it was so densely populated with trees to where after that, it felt like a post-apocalyptic wasteland of like, yeah, it was absolutely insane. But even in here, I remember like in the area we're in like the Pinewood area, there were trees everywhere. Like people, like all these trees were falling over. So in that case, were you guys part of any sort of tree planting? I don't know if Trees for Nipissing was around at that point.
We were, but there wasn't a specific program. A lot of the trees were on private property that were lost. But if you want to touch back on the kindness theme, because I was living in this neighborhood at that time, and someone, one yard was particularly affected, and that homeowner had 5 or 6 people come with their chainsaws and offer to help. And the same another time in that neighborhood, someone was having a little bit of flooding, and I stopped to offer my pump to the guy, and he said, "That's okay. This is the third offer that I've had."
Yeah.
That's who we are.
I mean, that happened at my cottage too. There was like a number of people who would just chainsaw, and like whoever had them right at that point. Yeah, that just popped in my head. I'm like, I wonder how that affects, because I'm sure that's something where it's like, oh, now you need to repopulate, especially in some of those more public areas and stuff. And that's like a whole rebuilding project at that point, right?
And that's like a tree bylaw would do that.
help.
If you cut down a tree on your property, or if a tree gets destroyed, then it has to be replaced within a year. That would be
That would be a big help.
A big help.
Tree-
Or in some municipalities, if you don't want to plant that tree on your property, say you put in a pool or something, you can pay the city an amount of money so they plant a tree on somewhere on their property. So you're still getting the same amount of trees, which would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And trees, well, Bill, you've talked about this, vitamin N. They're so good for, we do have a huge mental health problem here in North Bay, and trees in nature really help with that. It calms people down. It makes them happier. And the more trees we have, the more happier a city I think we'd have.
Yeah, we've had therapists on the Backroads Bill podcast, and we talk about vitamin N, and we talk about just being outside with nature and being with nature. And of course, that's really during this Kindness Week. I think that's maybe a good way to summarize, because I'm really going to look forward to your next steps, Trees for Nipissing, and the advocacy group and Nipissing Environmental Watch, and so on and so forth, and look forward to that to be some positive steps with regards to the city of North Bay, especially, again, as I've repeated myself, and during this centennial year. And you know what, Peggy and Cindy and Ben, I guess you're going to really like this. This has been a real treat.
So a big thank you to Cindy and Peggy, who, if you're listening to this and not watching, they brought a bit of a setup with them. They had some trees, they had a sign. They kind of commandeered the studio a little bit, which was great. I don't think we've had props before on this podcast, and something me and Bill will have to talk about. But they were absolutely fantastic. A little bit on short notice too. Like, normally we book out a number of weeks in advance. I think right now, actually, I was looking at it, we're like if we were booking in a guest now, I think we're like 2 months out. So we've had a lot of great demand for guests, and we've been able to get a lot on there. So they were able to come in a short week to make sure that we fit them in with Kindness Week. And so thank you to them for that. They are, again, incredibly passionate. The amount of volunteering that goes on, the amount of just time investment and care and love that goes into this project and into this initiative is absolutely fantastic. It's so admirable. And again, it checks the box of that theme that we're talking about this week, which is kindness. And if you want to know more about kindness, if you want to learn more about this initiative, head over to kindnessnorth.ca. And again, keep your eyes peeled, or your ears peeled, or your ears tuned in, whatever you do, to North Bay Echo and to the Echo programming, because each show is kindness themed this week. And again, if you missed yesterday's episode of To North Bay with Love, I'm telling you, Graham had a fascinating perspective. The mind of a child sometimes is fascinating to listen to, and a lot of times right when you get down into it. And Graham was fantastic. So go check that out on the website, northbayecho.ca, or any of your podcast platforms. And again, if you want to listen to more of the Backroads Bill podcast, we are also on northbayecho.ca, as well as any platform that you listen on, Spotify, Apple, etc. The video version is on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel. So thank you again for listening. Please sign up for our newsletter as well. The Echo Essentials newsletter, you can find it by going to northbayecho.ca and subscribing there. It's a great way to keep up to date with what's going on locally, some local news, obviously our programming as well, and everything that you might have missed. And it just kind of keeps you connected a little bit to the community. And also check out the other great shows that we have, not just produced by Echo, but also other people who are extremely talented in the North Bay area. Also, give us a like, comment, or review on whichever platform. It helps us to continue to grow. And after that mouthful, we are done. So we will see you again next week for another Backroads adventure.